Right, hello everyone. Sorry about the slight delay there. Thank you for tuning in to NUGEN Audio's first ever live stream on YouTube. Basically, we're going to try something new this evening. The idea is we're going to run a monthly stream on YouTube and possibly other platforms in the future as well, such as Twitch. So this is the first stream that we're doing. We're kind of testing out the format. If you've seen our content already on YouTube and on other platforms as well, it's not going to be too dissimilar. Some of you may remember the stream we did for the Believe in Music NAMM show back in January, where we did a NUGEN producer bundle tutorial. It's not going to be a million miles away from that. Basically, the format that we're going to look at in this stream is kind of having a look at what the developments are, what's been happening at NUGEN Audio over the past few months, as well as in the wider music production world. We'll touch upon a couple of the major talking points that have happened, and then we round off this stream by taking a deeper look at some NUGEN content that's either been from our learning section or previously on our YouTube channel. So things like our blogs and our tutorials. And basically it's going to be a rough 30 minutes to 40 minute show where we just, have a sort of chat about what's going on with all things music and post-production. So I'd like to just start off. Obviously, thank you for watching. Our first section of this live stream is going to be a quick chat about what's happening with NUGEN Audio recently. So what I can tell you, what's been happening with us is we've had our full release of our product, Stereoizer Elements, which some of you may already be familiar with. Some of you may already be familiar with Stereoizer, the full version. So both of them are now available on our website. Stereoizer Elements is a simplified version, if you like, of our previous product, Stereoizer. And basically what I'm going to do, I'll show you on the screen now. So to the left-hand side, you can see Stereoizer. And on the right-hand side, you can see Stereoizer Elements. So basically you can sort of compare the two. One is a more compact, simplified version with a bit more of a straightforward interaction for the user. So if you're a beginner or you're just starting to, maybe you've never heard of NUGEN before and you want to take a look and familiarize yourself with a few of our plugins, then I would say Stereoizer Elements would be a pretty solid place to start. So basically these are stereo width control plugins. If you look at Stereoizer, the full version, you'll notice that the controls are essentially made up of 3 algorithms, which we call the interaural time difference, interaural intensity difference, and linear width. And these 3 controls basically allow you to place your tracks or your mixes and control the stereo width and the depth of those tracks, and that is done so using those 3 algorithms. So basically you can see here, this is going to be the Stereoizer version. So this is what you can control basically in the full Stereoizer version, and you click these buttons here to choose which algorithm you want to affect. Now Stereoizer Elements is essentially, you've got all 3 of those algorithms condensed down into one simple control. So with Stereoizer Elements, just turn that off just there quick, simple control. And as well as this, you can alter the balance between the left and the right channels. You can change the trim, and you can decide to toggle whether you want a mono output or do you want the stereo output. So this is the plugin that has been available since mid-April. If you want to try out this plugin, then you are welcome to a 15-day free trial on the NUGEN website. That can be downloaded at any time. So if this is something that interests you, it's a stereo width plugin predominantly used for music production. This could be something that benefits your mix, then please feel free to download a trial from our website. And yes, that's that, guys. So basically, that's what's been happening recently with NUGEN Audio. As well as that, there's been some developments in sort of like the wider music production world. And what we'll be touching upon today, and I'm sure a few of the viewers may have already been noticing this, is Dolby Atmos has been coming into music streaming services. In June 2021, which is the month that this is being streamed, you've got the likes of Apple Music, Amazon Music, and also Tidal have introduced this to their streaming services already. And essentially, like, we wanted to look at like what this means for music production going forward. Does it have the potential to bring a whole new dynamic to music production and especially mixing? The concept behind Dolby Atmos in music, as is the case where it's been used in post-production, is to deliver a higher level of space, clarity and depth to music tracks, and potentially could relieve a lot of problems relating to space and panning and something that always can take a lot of time, can be quite laborious and monotonous, and something that takes that extra degree of care when working with stereo. So already, you know, a number of music devices have started to support Dolby Atmos mixes via binaural mixdowns, including quite a large amount of headphones. AirPods have recently introduced compatibility, and as well some stereo speaker systems as well as Dolby Atmos speaker systems. A couple of releases to note that's already been Dolby Atmos compatible releases that have already been out. Some big names already include Kraftwerk's 3D The Catalogue, Hans Zimmer's Live in Prague production, and on the flip side of those ones, you've also got like the likes of Public Enemy's Don't Believe the Hype, and sort of essentially what we're talking about is like Dolby Atmos is music that has been recorded and produced in a 3D audio format, which we can use the term immersive, and it essentially gives the impression that the listener is being fully immersed by Dolby Atmos or this audio format. And sort of in the modern day sort of music production world, a lot more producers have access to some, you know, more sophisticated digital recording equipment that lets them mix from just the stereo to dozens of separate channels. However, no matter how many channels they start with, if they're creating a stereo recording, these multiple channels must be combined eventually into just two channels, which is what we call a binaural mixdown. But Dolby Atmos is essentially a way of expanding out from traditional channel-based audio to create this immersive experience. So it'd be interesting to see how this happens over the next few months, whether this kind of takes off. It's a bit of a sort of it's in its infancy, this technology, when it comes to music production. It's something that certainly can be exciting. A lot of people have backed this and sort of given it their, you know, the thumbs up to say this could really be the biggest change potentially in music production for quite a long time, probably since going from mono to stereo. So that's something that we've been looking at NUGEN Audio. If you want to find out a little bit more about Dolby Atmos, and particularly a couple of the tools that you might want to use to help you work with Dolby Atmos, then if you look on our YouTube channel, we've recently uploaded a video all to do with Halo Upmix and Dolby Atmos for music, and a quick look at what Dolby Atmos is and some of the tools that you can use yourself to sort of have a first go at mixing for Atmos. So that'll be the Halo Upmix and Dolby Atmos video. And also, if you want to have a go at Halo Upmix, then again, as I've said before, with the Stereoizer Elements plugin, you're more than welcome to a 15-day free trial, which is available on our website. So that's kind of what's happening in the wider music world this month, and we'll be sort of keeping our tabs on that, and hopefully talking a bit more in depth about Dolby Atmos in music in some upcoming streams that we're going to look at doing. And then this last section that I'm going to talk to you about today is what we're going to be calling a deeper look. So in this particular section, you may have seen on our learning website, as part of the NUGEN website, we have a number of blogs and a number of tutorials that we've been publishing and uploading over the years. We do have a blog that we call Mastering for the Internet, which was first published in 2018. Now, if I can just pull this up 1 sec. So, the Mastering for the Internet, if you can see here. So this is the homepage for the Mastering of the Internet blog. It's split into 6 sections, as you can see. So you got streaming matters, how loud is too loud, no one is listening to your mixdown, more dynamics, same loudness, be the loudness, and tips and tricks. So some abstract, you can kind of get the gist. So of this Mastering for the Internet, and this first section takes a bit of a look at like it's a more sort of speculative look at how sort of the music world's changed over the past decade or so, how we've gone from the loudness wars back when CDs and MP3 were the main formats in audio around the late noughties, particularly from 2006 to 2010, and how in some cases the streaming world, so the likes of Spotify, Amazon Music, Tidal, have kind of taken over from the loudness war era. So particularly around then, there was certain albums that were sort of famous for being like heavily overcompressed, and the dynamic range wasn't particularly wide. It was kind of very condensed throughout the album. And a couple of like case studies, I'm sure you guys are well aware of some of these. But the one you may remember, Metallica's Death Magnetic album, which was released back in September 2008, and this was a particularly heavy album. This was a particularly famous album for its heavy compression, which resulted in a lot of distortion and digital clipping, and had a particularly narrow dynamic range to the album. So, just as you pull up this is just basically a little picture of the difference between see how heavily compressed and lack of dynamics there is in the CD version, and then you can see the Guitar Hero version, I believe it is, which is obviously far less compressed and and this just kind of gives us a visual representation of how sort of became what they were. The audio was so heavily compressed. Yes, it was loud coming through your speakers, but in terms of the content that you're listening to, was it did it give you the flavor that the music was intending? And a lot of people have sort of said, that even like if you're listening through headphones, particularly to albums such as Death Magnetic, and we'll touch on another one as well, that is all over compressed. which is Californication by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, which, even though that was slightly before the main Loudness Wars era, this was 1999, I believe. But as you can see, you can look at the visual representation, you can look at the waveform of the audio there, and you've got a very similar correlation happening. So on the top, you've got the unmastered version, and then on the bottom, you can see how overcompressed it's been. You can see all sorts of clipping going on right the way through the track, even in sections where you'd imagine it being a little more quieter and a little more sort of dynamic. And so this, particularly with these albums, I think audibly, the first things that come to mind are the drums just sound, way too in the forefront, way too overcompressed, as I've said. And these are the two albums that sort of are, I guess, in most people's minds, the two sort of, because they're by quite large stadiums, that stick out as a representation of what the Loudness Wars were. There's obviously a few more. I believe there was a Taylor Swift album that got released. It was a 2011 release, but the name escapes me. And that was also sort of heavily criticised for kind of chasing this, ever chasing this loudness, this volume, that you wanted the thing to jump out the speakers, when in reality you were just over compressing and reducing the dynamic range for all these for all the songs on the album. And there's a website you can look at which is called Dr. Loudness War Info, which is a really interesting website, and it uses what it calls dynamic range. So the dynamic range unit, which I believe is similar to loudness units, but it's not exactly the same, but uses a similar sort of scale. So as you can see, the example that I've used before, Deaf Magnetic, has the smallest dynamic range out of any album in Metallica's discography. And likewise, if I type in Red Hot Chili Peppers, if it'll load just a sec, and I check this via dynamic. The Californication is, well, surprisingly, it's the second smallest dynamic range out of their discography after I'm With You. But if you look at the year of release that I'm With You came out, 2011, just at the tail end of the Loudness War, that could have been another album that fell victim to that particular mindset at the time, if you like. And one second. So, thing I want to touch on is from that Loudness Wars, and we've kind of moved into a new kind of era in music production, particularly since 2011. There's been the sort of exponential rise of streaming services across the past decade. So the first section in this blog that we've done kind of takes a look at that and sort of tries to draw some comparisons between the Loudness Wars and now what streaming services do. So now that revenue from audio streaming services is higher than all other music delivery formats combined, it's even more important to understand the impact that streaming has on audio production. So we asked 5 questions about loudness, things like codec compression techniques used in streaming services, and we had responses from 50 different countries. So it's clear there's an active worldwide interest in these issues in the music production world. And one interesting point, this first question, does music streaming signal the end of Loudness Wars? Quite a similar number of people said yes and no. That was quite split. So about half the people said yes or no, and then majority of the people said maybe, and then a few people said no idea. So this kind of suggests that no one quite knows a definite answer at this point. It's as it says on the page there, you can read it. It is quite an ambitious question, but it does address a serious point. With the increasingly widespread introduction of loudness normalization in music, so which is kind of what is designed to tackle or put an end to the Loudness Wars. So these are all prevalent in streaming services like Spotify, Apple Music, even YouTube and digital radio. Have we reached the point where the loudness advantage no longer exists, and could dynamic compression simply become a creative choice based on taste rather than a commercial imperative to stay loud? So the result's kind of independent on the preset and which streaming service you're mixing for. So likewise with YouTube, and then AS streaming practice, things like BBC iPlayer for the UK, and DAB radio, where you can check between the various codecs there. And that's one plugin that helps. Another plugin that helps to reduce codec distortion issues is our plugin ISL, which is our True Peak limiter. With it being True Peak, this can help to ensure that downstream codecs such as MP3 and AAC do not introduce distortion. So by default, this is all already set up with the ITU 17703 algorithm. You can change this to use Apple's AF clip algorithm, and you can adjust. This just works as would a normal True Peak limiter, but just how it works behind the hood is it helps to reduce codec distortion, which we mentioned before, and also the few of the presets in here can help you to mix for certain sort of platforms, things like CDs, the Apple Music algorithm, as well as the ITUR BS17704, I think I'm right in saying, loudness normalization. So sort of to summarise what we've just spoke about for the last 5 to 10 minutes, there definitely is a sort of high level of concern amongst the music production community that music streaming services may need to, music services may indeed modify audio, both by normalising loudness and through data compression techniques for streaming. So there's over 80% of people that are concerned with both kind of coexisting problems. So for the last 2 years, so we're talking about from 2016 to 2018 here, the industry press has highlighted the impact of streaming and focused on some tools which can help audio producers understand this new paradigm. This service indicates that these tools are indeed gaining in popularity. However, it would seem there is a need for further education before workflows are generally established that give producers confidence that their music will reach the listener in a manner they understand, and also with their the artistic intent still intact. So a couple of the plugins that I've touched upon today, if you're interested in sort of having a go at sort of producing for streaming services, you can check out our modern mastering bundle. As well as this, you can also check out individually the Master Check plugin and ISL, and these are all available, as well as the previous plugins I've mentioned, Halo Up Mix and Stereoizer and Stereoizer Elements. These are all available for a 15-day trial on our website. So feel free to have a go at them. You're more than welcome to. You can download them right after the stream if you'd like. And I just want to say thank you for tuning into this pilot episode of a NUGEN stream. Still kind of ironing out some cracks. It's not going to be perfect just yet, but it's something we're trying to branch out to, sort of make our content a bit more wider reaching, as we do realise that the streaming world is kind of taken over a little bit in the past year or two, and it does seem to be a platform that's gaining in traction. So this is the first one that we've done. So hopefully you've enjoyed it somewhat. My name's Tom Griffin. I'm the assistant product specialist at NUGEN Audio, and we're going to be running these once a month. The idea is hopefully when things are up and running again, the idea to have guests on these streams is something that we're looking at. So we'll be kind of running things in sort of bi-monthly. So 1 month we'll sort of have maybe a guest, a sort of like a conversation with, where we'll look at, talk with industry professionals, what their latest projects and future plans are, as well as talking about NUGEN gear. And then in rotation with that, we're going to have sort of something similar to what we've done today, a more sort of tutorial / gear, general gear chat, where we take a look at, what's happening in the audio world, what's happening here at NUGEN Audio. And then we'll have a look at some of the tutorials and the blogs we've done on our website previously, and kind of just bring them to life a little bit more, maybe just kind of articulate the points a little bit more, maybe, and maybe show some graphics, just general kind of like chat, to hear me waffling on about some of the stuff we've got on the NUGEN website. So yeah, hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. This is the first ever one, so thank you for tuning into that, and hopefully we'll see you again in a month's time, and thank you very much.